Okay, welcome to week 2 of discussion, the Gate of Heaven. In this discussion, in this chapter, Aphraar is, I'm jokingly calling it, he's having a freak out. He's like, what just happened? So that's basically, Aphraar style, whatever sphere he's in. However, I was thinking to myself, even when I get to that sphere, I probably will not be as composed as he is. It'll probably be still wild and loud if it's done my way. But he's reflecting on his experience and he's got some questions, some thought processes going on. So I've come up with some list of questions that we can discuss. And then towards the end, he goes into some pretty strong parables and stories, Bible stories. However, I don't know what they're about, so I'm not able to give credit to the power of the story because I don't know what they're about. So I only picked a small little section to discuss. Hopefully somebody here know what he's talking about. So should we start with question 1 or discussion 1? Yeah, we okay with going ahead with that, or do you want to discuss the overall theme of the chapter? Anybody? No? Okay. So in the first point of discussion, may I not say that the mysterious influence and operation I've been subjected to since crossing the mystical Jordan have secretly worked in the evolving of new faculties, capacities, and powers, which are carrying me forward into such new conditions of being that I'm already scarcely able to recognize my old self. And that's page 18. So what are some of the faculties and powers that has awakened in Aphraar since he passed, and what are some of the experiences he has had that has contributed to his awakening? So how has he changed and what has led to the change? What do you guys remember from the previous 2 books? Anyone want to start? Virginia, and then Pat.
He was quite impressed with the sleep state and the sleep state
Yes.
experience and how important that is.
Right.
And so much learning that there is from that was something he was always very excited about learning.
Okay.
To bring back here for us was what happens in the sleep state.
Yeah.
How much there is there for us to learn in that experience.
Okay, so that's actually a really good point. He has been very, well, one thing is whatever he experienced, as soon as he passed, he said, I got to come back and talk to somebody. I got to tell somebody. So that's definitely been one big change. And then to bring back the awareness about sleep state. Yeah, thank you. And Pat. Oh, you mute?
Okay. Yeah, okay, I got it. It just to extend with what she was saying, the memory, his point of recollection that he was actually remembered the sleep state, so I felt that as well. Yeah. And he also realized that when he was dead, he was actually awake, and when he was living on Earth, he was actually dreaming. I found that kind of unusual.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought that he became aware of was he had more knowledge that everything that God creates is forever. So he created mediumship that we could communicate with the other side, but because of religions and authority, they shut it down. Yeah. But people who had patience and who would keep seeking for it, they eventually found that they could still communicate.
Yes.
So he realized that.
Yes.
That if God creates it, then it's always forever. Yeah. Nobody can shut it down.
Okay. So the mediumship experience changed him and developed quite a lot of his abilities, obviously, in order to channel to Robert James Lee's. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Thank you. Is there more?
That's all I had, actually.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, those things are definitely big changes. And yeah, it is interesting that he calls his spirit life the awake state and the earth life the dream. That is, yeah. I feel a little bit like, hey, when I read those phrases, but that's his experience. Thank you. And Michaela?
Hey.
Hey.
It seems like his passion becomes awakened, this desire to share truth, and particularly with people on earth.
Yeah.
And also the part that I like is that he talks about how he wants to share that we are developing our spirit home with everything that we do whilst we're on the earth.
Yeah, the Earth's life is important because you're actually developing what you're going to receive when you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Okay, thank you. And Selena?
He had two really big lessons on the power of prayer.
Prayer.
With the little boys,
Yeah.
with Billy Pig, and then also with the woman with her son, praying for his safety. So those were very good examples.
Okay. Okay, wow, yeah. That's definitely a lot of stuff that he has experienced that then changed him in a big way and developed his own soul. Because
and faith.
Sorry, faith.
His
Yeah.
faith.
That's right.
Faith. Yeah.
It is huge. I seem to be skipping around this issue. For some reason, I don't want to dive in and talk about it. And what Michaela pointed out is that he actually connected to his passion after he passed. Like before he passed, he definitely connected to his passion of trying to ease other people's suffering as much as he could because he knew what it was like, as he described in his chapter. But then he actually found burning passion after he passed, and that will definitely change your soul in a big way. Jill.
On that as well, I think he really understood or started to understand how it's almost backwards. So like here on earth, what is deemed as important in the spirit world is condemned here on earth. And, and that's sort of that parody there.
Do you want to give an example of what is it that's condemned on it that he does there?
Like so he came from an Orthodox family, and he stepped away from that sort of Orthodox culture, and that was condemned in his world. That was really bad in his world. Whereas what he found in the spirit world was that what he was doing, like his service to help people, was actually I don't want to say rewarded, but but it was shown as that it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was rewarded.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why I don't want to use that word, but
yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so he's had many experiences that has changed him in a big way then. And then point 2, Aphraar is concerned about his performance of service to Vaone. So here are some of his questions he's coming up with. Had I risen to the occasion and considerately sown such seed on a prepared soil as would bring forth the needed harvest? Or had I been taken at a disadvantage and been found asleep at my post or away from my watch, and thus failed to do that which I ought to have done? The result of the inquiry was not so reassuring as I could have wished. So he started out with I'm not feeling very reassured here, that as I expected to be feeling. And was I acting wisely in taking the course that I did? Would it have helped her better had I told her the story of my own experience from the time I woke up to find myself lying on the slope when Helen came to my assistance? These are page 19, then page 20. As a recompense, I received the brand of a heretic from the church, estrangement from my scrupulously Orthodox family, a communion of sympathy and affection with the helpless, and when passed beyond the reach of theologies and orthodoxies, I found a welcome awaiting me, which was more than a recompense for all I've experienced. This is an outline of an alternative recital I might have given to Vaone had I not followed the impulse born of that illuminating ray. Then I could have finished by the declaration with which I first answered her, and yet I'm not in a position to speak of heaven. So it's kind of going, I could have given my story, I could have given the summary. So why is he having what I call doubts? I had a feeling some people won't like that word. And why is he considering the other options he could have taken? What's going on for him here? What's he going through? Jill.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it almost sounded like he was working through an addiction, that he wanted to feel better after he talked to Vaone.
Yeah.
And he couldn't understand why he wasn't feeling better.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
a good question to kind of go, I wonder if that's what's going on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Leave it there.
Good point. Selena.
Well, it almost seems to me that on reflection, maybe he kind of answered her question through his own filters rather than from where she was coming from. You know, she's coming from still maybe a religious place where she had these expectations based on her religious experience that he didn't have. So he answered in response to his filters. So I think when he kind of thought, I could have talked to her about my religious experience, rather than just assuming maybe he really realized afterwards how strong her Orthodox experience was. Yeah. And that she was already having some doubts about it. And then he really just kind of, like, that's just not happening.
Yeah.
But from his perspective, he'd already dealt with that.
Yes, that's right.
And she hadn't, so she was just coming to some awareness of it. Yeah. And so I don't know that it was even like the wrong answer. Maybe the other way would have been more sensitive to where she was coming from. Maybe that's what he felt, a little lack of understanding, compassion for where she was coming from.
Yeah, because his experience.
Because of his experience, yes.
And he's already worked through it. So I like what you said, that he didn't have her point of reference.
Right. So as we all do that, right? We do it through our own filters, and then somebody reacts and they go, oh, you have no idea what I'm feeling about this, because your experience is so different. Yeah.
And God wants to respond to our true motivation, to what we're really feeling. Really good awareness. Thank you, Selena.
Oh.
And so, so in that case, it was really good that, God, who had the true awareness, was able to not only give him the true awareness that this is a point of reference, but also how to respond to it more effectively. So that's kind of cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And also it just occurred to me that she got where she got to because of her faith and her orthodoxy.
Yeah.
Because that's where she got her faith in God from.
Okay.
What he rejected, that's where she got her faith from.
Yes.
But was expecting to get the whole meal deal because of that, and that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And so she asked him the question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Michaela.
I wonder if he's just being kind of realistic in realizing that he's not at one with God yet. So when he receives from God, he's not receiving the full picture yet. So he's sort of inquiring as to what he had that was like what Selena was saying, like what filters he's putting on to the way that he's he received.
Okay. So he's actually allowing that experience to go deeper into his soul and continue to change him. He's letting it sink deeper and deeper. And yes, I like what you point out there, that then he's using that to compare it to what he would have said, and then compare and go, so what would have been wrong if I said it that way? This is what I would have done compared to what did happen. What is the point of reference? What is the comparison? Why would that have not been as effective? So he's questioning it. And because that way you're allowing the illumination to, because when we receive guides and God's experiences and feelings, we have a choice about letting it sink in deeper and change us and continue to change us, or we can just shut it down. and then miss the opportunity for the change. So yeah, thank you. Yeah. Others? Virginia.
Those are a lot of good points because
Yeah.
I just thought that it was about his faith,
Okay.
that he
Can you
didn't,
say more?
he was building his faith. His faith wasn't strong enough yet to really have full trust that when he gets this illumination, just to go that way and that is the best way.
Ah.
So
he's-
then when
okay.
he doesn't have that, his faith isn't really there yet, it's not fully developed, then he has these doubts.
So what I like is that what you're pointing out is that faith is something that has to be developed. It has to be strengthened. So he had a very new experience, and then he's using that experience to deepen his faith that in the future time, when he get one of those, go with it. Because that is what he ended up deciding. That's a really good awareness, Virginia. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good point. Faith is something you have to strengthen. You have to let it get in there. Yeah, wow. Man, you guys are on the ball today. I'm enjoying this. I should have depression more frequently. Okay, other points? Other ideas? No? Okay. All right. Oh, Michael.
I'm just seeing him running through it with his intellect, and
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that, and thinking of all the different ways that he could have taken it, and
Yes.
how he just doesn't know what the best way was. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of relieved when he gets to the end and he says, "Oh, but then I just followed the illuminating ray, and it is what it is."
Yeah, but in the process of working through it, his faith deepened, and he understood why. Like he's kind of engaging his free will. You gotta have your free will to understand why, because you're taking responsibility for your choices, and you gotta understand why you're gonna make that choice. Otherwise, that niggly doubt will continue to, follow him everywhere. So, I like that, Michael. That you do have to start with your intellect. You do have to think and use your thought process. That is probably the best use of your mind. That's where it's useful. Mind is not good for making decision, but it's definitely good for exploring and branching things out. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so point 3. I came to the conclusion that I had taken a better course in following the leading of that ray of illumination, ... Still, though I had not scored a victory, no wonder why he said that, I could comfort myself with the thought that I had not closed my eyes to the vision, nor resisted the call that had been made upon me. So I feel like he was engaging the inner conflict, which I love doing those things, are really good. So how do you feel the reflection has helped Aphraar, and why did it help him to come to the conclusion he did? Why is it that through the thinking process, he'd come to the conclusion that he did the right thing following the illumination? But I'm also curious, why does he think he did not score a victory? That's kind of, I should have gone back and read that a little more. But discussions? Pat?
Yeah, I thought just the fact that he acted was a victory. Like at least he took action. I know in my life, a lot of times I just avoid it because for an addiction reason, like I want validation first, or I'm afraid to make a mistake. At least he took the action.
That's
and
right.
when you take the action, you can self-reflect and see if it was loving or not, and then improve on it. But if you don't act, there's no change, or you can't help anyone.
That's
and
right.
I also felt, even with his short answer or whatever he felt was wrong with the answer he gave, at least he found, I don't know how to say her name, but found her, at least it piqued her interest.
Yeah.
So it made her curious to ask more questions, and it really got her engaged in life and the mysteries of life, and she wanted to know more and more. So I think what he did was great.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why he doesn't think it was a victory.
Yeah, I am curious why he felt that was a victory. Maybe he's comparing himself to Mayanin and Siamese, they kind of bring all the people crippled and bound, release them from freedom and carry.
Maybe it wasn't the perfect answer, but I thought
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. Maybe he's being, there's kind of, well, when he had a life where people always doubted him or questioned him, or kind of his self-esteem was kept down, then I guess it's part of our existence to continue feeling like double checking. Did I do the right thing? Was I good?
Actually, if I were to do that, I would doubt myself all the time and second guess it. So I can see why he's doing it, but I don't know why he's doing it.
Yeah, some of that earth experience hasn't been released yet, I guess. As part of the process. Thank you. Jill?
I guess I'm gonna start this off with a question. It kind of feels like, is this the first time that he's received, I'm gonna call it divine inspiration?
Sounds like it.
So would he, because he does later on, he kind of comes to the realization, oh, this is where it came from. It came from God. Like, and then he goes into his basically the last thing I understood of this chapter, but so it kind of was almost like he was working through the process of understanding that this was divine inspiration and where it was coming from, and that kind of led him down the road, and then he expanded his faith and all of that.
Because until now he has, as he realized later in the chapter, that through the faces of Mayanin and Siamese and all these other people that were helping him, it was God all along that was helping with the process. But then he always had a face to give him those insights.
Yes.
The first time when Mayanin say, no, you're going to do this yourself. Can't come to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it sounds like it. But I mean, that's a lot of humility when you are willing to learn and ask others to show the right way. Yeah. Selena?
When I read the first chapter, I thought her reaction was quite mixed, because she says, "Are you quite done?" And in my mind, that's like, "Are you quite done?" Like, you've really challenged me here. I'm pretty triggered. And then she says, "Well, thank you very much. And that was really helpful. And I'm really curious. And I want to do it." And then she kind of turns on her heel and walks off. And he kind of goes, "Yeah, well, I did that too. I get it, So he kind of recognizes that she's been confronted in ways that he's been confronted. So obviously he was just as perfect or imperfect as his mentors. So I too don't know why he feels he failed. I don't really know how you could soften it. Like, you can't really, if you do go too soft and not trigger, well, where are you going to get,
To me, the agitation is a sign of success. You got in.
And she had the grace to see the benefit of what he'd said, but yet she still stomped off. But I mean, that's how I interpret it.
I feel like if you let something really hit you, you're in shock. And then you have to, oh my God, what just happened?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm done talking now. Goodbye. Well, she didn't say goodbye. She just left.
Because you got to honor that thing that just happened to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he totally recognized it as that's what happened to him. And he loves the guys that were helping him. And so anyway, I kind of was surprised at his doubts myself.
Yeah.
And not feeling he had a victory, or if there's no perfect ways to do things. But man, if that's his first time, it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the earth experience that we are going to have to also release as we go. The doubt, the insecurity, all these things are going to be part of our experiences, which doesn't negate the validity of what we're doing, what we're experiencing and receiving. But you know what? If I had been happily thinking I'm in heaven and somebody tell me this is not heaven, I think I would have had a much louder experience. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm pretty loud and big in my experiences. I will have been. So, like, I'm making fun of Aphraar going, boy, you're so gentle and quiet. I will have just been freaking out. louder.
Yeah. For all we know, she's still laboring under some of the orthodoxy, like Jesus is coming to see me, or
Yeah.
to get me to the next, or you don't know what's all going on with her with her religious stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that God feels compassion and can see how much she's bound up by those beliefs that she has absorbed in her earth life. I just realized that now as we spoke.
And they did get her to there,
Yeah.
where she was. Yeah.
But then you have to be willing to upgrade. Thank you. Okay, other comments on that point? On point 2, okay. Point 3. No, so now we're at 4, okay. We're at 4, we're at faith, page 22. Faith is what may be called a telemicroscopic faculty the soul discovers in the depth of being, which, pressed into service, penetrate and illuminate the interior darkness and enable the soul to live in the future as if that future were already present. And another statement, if once this inherently penetrating power of the soul, we'll start with the first one. What does this statement mean to you? The telemicroscopic faculty. That's what faith is. What does that statement mean to you? When pressed into service, there's like this option, there's a choice you got to make. Illuminates the darkness of the soul. Pat.
I'll give a go at it.
Yeah.
I just broke it up to in different sections because the microscopic part, I just thought it's faith that you can't see with the eye. You have to actually feel it with your heart. Feel it with your heart.
Love it. Okay.
And the soul discovers. We're not born with faith. We have to develop it. So I thought we have to discover it. And then in the depth of being, to find faith or to build faith, you have to experiment and experience it. So you have to do something and experiment to figure it out. And then press into service. So when you have faith, you will act. So you'll take action.
If you choose to. You can have faith and kind of numb it out and kind of make it go dormant.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, you have to use your will to do it. And the next part, I wasn't quite sure, but penetrates and illuminates the interior darkness, because I thought maybe just to see the truth of it.
Yeah.
And see the errors that you have in the false beliefs.
Yeah.
And enables the soul to live in the future as if the future were already present is. If you keep building your faith, you have complete confidence and trust that it will work. So you keep trying it and keep acting and keep building your faith and building on it. That's all I could think of what it meant.
So you've done an intellectual deciphering of that passage. What did it feel like for you?
It feels like I have to work on developing my faith and releasing, like not living in my fear, but I have to take action and learn to make mistakes and take risks.
Okay.
To build my faith.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have to also learn to have faith in God and that God is good and that God exists so that I can experiment with these things.
Yeah. In the 2019 assistance group, there was a lot of conversation about corrupt faith. That if we have absorbed corrupt faith in our soul, we have to actually release the corrupt faith so that the true faith can enter us and develop.
Are you referring to false beliefs when you say corrupt faith?
No, Mary was just saying corrupt faith in the assistance group. Those recording hasn't been released yet.
No, okay.
It was very, very powerful. It was like a game changer for me. Like there's corrupt faith and then there's a thing, and Mary was experiencing and processing some of her corrupt faith during assistance group. And you could see the change in her as she did it. So she gave some examples. So
Can
I
you
know.
give a short example of what a corrupt faith is to give me an idea of what it is?
Sure. One of my corrupt faith is God will not come true for me. God will not come true for me.
Okay.
That is one of my corrupt faith. So I'm going to have to feel that and release it, experience it emotionally and release it. And I asked God, give me a list of my corrupt faith. Boom. I was like, oh yeah, it's true actually. Yeah, it is true. You are not going to come true for me. Totally. I totally believe that. But it's true. That's my experience. And it's like, oh boy. So I'm going to have to, and I am slowly processing that emotion and releasing it. And as it's released, then there's room for truth to enter. And you can actually ask God, what are some of my faith, my in harmony, true faith that I do have? Because faith can become dormant, but faith is like a superpower. It makes you do things you can't imagine. So you can actually ask God to make you become aware of the faith you do have. That is true faith. And then once you remember and rediscover it, then you can actually start to engage it. Then you can say, if I'm to live from this faith every day, what would I be doing? How will I be changing, taking actions? That's a fun thing to do, actually. It's pretty powerful. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to all the rest of the recordings to get cleaned up and being released, because there's some amazing material in those videos. Michaela.
I'm not so sure if this is on point, but what it sort of stimulates in me is, like, just in this last month, I had some really big stuff. And when you really get pressed into service to the point where your desire becomes bigger than your fear, the faith kind of drives you forward to be prepared to look at things that are in the way that are stopping you from being able to serve.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's excellent. That I can totally see how that will. That is when all this dormant faith will rise up, and you will step into them, because you gotta get yourself to get through some pretty hard times. Yeah, thank you, Michaela.
You realize you have no other choice but to believe in God.
Exactly, and discover the faith you do have, because you must have some,
and to develop more through the process.
Yes, that's a fun experiment to do. You can say, God, what more faith, what new faith can I develop? Give me some good faith that could be very helpful. Maybe faith in God's laws, or faith in spirit world, or that could be a fun thing to. I'm calling it fun. These things are fun for me. But you can ask to develop other faith. Or maybe there's something that you see in somebody and you're going, how do they do what they do? They just step up there and things just happen for them. So it could be like, what is the faith they have that's keeping them going? How can I also have similar faith? That could be fun. Laura, are you unhanding your hand?
Hey, sorry.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, I was just going to add to your corrupt faith thing. I sort of interpreted that corrupt faith is essentially a fear, like a false expectation that we believe to be true.
Okay.
As well. Like, I loved the idea of calling it corrupt faith.
Yeah, because you were at the assistance group, right? You were at 4.2.
Yeah.
4.1. Which one were you at?
I think I might have been in the first one.
I think it was the first one. Yeah, 4.1. That's right.
Yeah, you were there too, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there for both. And yeah, that does kind of make sense that if you're having, well, actually, I don't know. I'm now curious. Is corrupt faith a form of fear? That is a good question. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we kind of like believe something to be true
when it's not.
We have faith that that's true, even, and we do that with fear. So like we have faith that an outcome is going to be true, and in reality, we don't even really know, because we're not even experimenting with it.
I like your logic. Your logic adds up.
I don't think it's my logic. remember Jesus and Mary talking about it, I think.
Okay, okay, thank you. Well, the other type of fear, then. Okay, bring it on. Fear is fun to release. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
Okay, so the second part of part 4 was, Aphraar goes on, page 22. If once this inherently penetrating power of the soul can be clearly conceived and grasped, there will no longer be the slightest foundation of any doubt that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, which I think is a Bible phrase. Then you will begin to understand something of what is meant by a second birth or by second birth. Why is Aphraar connecting faith to second birth, which is basically how he started the whole book, was he was contemplating second birth, and then Vaone walks in with a question, and here we are. So why is he referring faith to second birth, comparing it? Is it safe to assume that he's speaking about that you require faith to become at one with God? Could that be what he's referring to, Michaela?
I wonder if it's related, like talking about the penetrating power of the soul, that like every time you take an action from faith and you have a result that confirms this concept that you have of God, you're constantly, every time you do that, you're stepping closer and closer to the point where you become at one.
Wow.
And each time you, as well, you're gaining more of an understanding of what it could be like when you are fully at one with God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So if you have faith, you take action, and then because it's true faith, you get very powerful results. And that then makes you get even more drawn into taking those actions. And next thing you know, you're at the gate.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when the faith is true, and from what I know, you always get phenomenal results from stepping into faith, and then, you know, it's like a whole other universe you didn't know exists will start to show up. Those has been my few experiences with it. Thank you. Any comments? Pat. Oh, you mute.
Just getting used to this. If you have total faith, like really total faith that you believe in God and He exists, you would not break any of God's laws, because you would know that they're all loving. And to become at one with God, you have to get rid of all your sins. And to do that, you have to act in harmony with all of God's laws. So.
Okay, so if you have faith in God and God's laws, then you won't break them. What did you say?
To become at one with God, you have to release all your sin.
Yes.
And not create any more sin. So then you would have to act in harmony with all His laws.
Yes. You do have to act in harmony with God's laws to become at one with God.
And you wouldn't break them.
And you won't break them. That's true, right? From at one when on, you're not breaking them. And it's faith. And you will do so because you have faith that God's laws are good. Is that what you're saying?
And that God is loving, and that God wants the best for us. And God wants us to be happy. And He wants us to become at one with Him.
Yes. That's really cool. I like that. That's true. Huh. Okay. One of the positive faith I have now, because I asked him, like, what is some of my positive faith? The answer I got was that I have faith that God wants me to heal. I really, really believe God does want me to heal. God wants my pain gone. God wants my illnesses gone. I truly believe it. And it's like, oh, that's true. And it does pull me forward into some uncomfortable experiences, because if God is bringing some events or some triggers to me, some terrible memories to me, I'm going, but God wants me to heal. So there's got to be a reason why I have to walk through this one. So it does pull me through my experiences. So faith does work. I really like your perspective there, Pat. That's really good. If I have faith that God's laws are good, and then I would not want to break it. I will have faith in it and keep going and not want to sin. Boy, what a useful faith. I think I want to work on that one. That would really help, because then a lot of my tantrums about, anger and tantrums and rebellion would then stop. I will stop rebelling, because I'm still rebelling. I am very rebellious. But if I start to have faith that God's laws are good and let's not break it. What I find about faith is once you engage it, it becomes effortless. It just kind of has it just does its own thing. It becomes a habit that you don't have to think about. So those things are like effortlessly pulling you forward all the time. Michael.
You just said something that triggered me. Triggered an idea. Why did God create faith? What is the use of faith?
Ooh, what a good question.
And I think that the second birth is so distant. To me, it feels so distant, and I would never conceive of it on my own. And Jesus has said that the transformation is a work that God does. It's not something that we do. For all of us that have tried to be on the path by our own effort.
True.
And so I think it's, we wouldn't. My mortal being can only go as far as I can see, but faith lets me reach for something that isn't there yet, but
Yes.
somehow I can feel. So he gives us the ability to feel something with a faculty of our soul that we can act on and actually realize somehow.
Yes. Okay. That's very powerful. So is that ability, because we will not try to learn how to fly or learn how to have computers or learn how to, a lot of what we have, a lot of our advances are because of the quality called faith. So it is true that God giving us this quality so that we can engage it, make us reach for things that we otherwise will never do. Because then, we're kind of using our imagination a little bit, right? We're like, if birds can fly, why can't we? And off you go. So faith is what is required for you to even go past that imagination and start doing something with it. So that's a really good point, Michael. I think that makes sense. And also, yes, the at-one-ment is, you're a completely different creature. So for you to imagine yourself being like, the analogy of the caterpillar and butterfly, the caterpillar turns into mush in that cocoon. So it will take a lot of faith for you to let yourself go through that kind of mushiness so that you can come out as a second being. So I want to agree with you, Michael, that, yeah, it makes sense God would put that there because that's what it'll take for you to make the leap into at-one-ment.
And also to maybe just to have an idea, a feeling for how big eternity is and how big creation is.
How would that change? How does that change affect you, knowing that exists?
It makes me think there's something. No, it doesn't make me think. It makes me feel there's something out there, something that I can enter into.
Yeah.
That I'll be welcome in, that I'm meant to move into.
Okay.
But it, God, Jesus says that God made us in, okay, I'm going to get this wrong. It made us in such a way that we can feel timelessness.
Okay.
I'm really blowing that, but
okay.
So faith gives me an idea of the magnitude of the infinitude of possibility, maybe.
Okay. So it makes you desire, it makes you hope, it makes you have.
It makes me brave to venture into the unknown and to go, what's there for me?
Yeah.
I feel safe. I feel like I'm invited to explore.
Okay. Wow. Safety, courage, initiative, hope, like it inspires you from feeling the darkness and the heaviness, and which we see later in the conversation about, the hells and what on earth will keep you going if you're in hell and you think you're doomed forever. So, okay, thank you, Michael. Yeah, that's a really good point.
And my thinking is all linear.
Yeah.
And logic is linear unless I'm crazy. And imagination, makes jumps and stuff like that. So it's on suggestion, but faith lets me suggests to me that I can get to the other side of eternity or the other side of the universe without seeing the way to get there.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep, I can see that being very powerful. It keeps us going. Thank you. Virginia.
One thing that keeps nattering at me while I'm listening to everyone, because I always thought of faith as just like this one big, huge thing.
Okay.
That it's just faith. But what's coming at me today is having faith in yourself, having faith in myself.
Yeah.
And that when you were talking about corrupt faith, that really kind of touched some points that is a part of the faith that really does need to build. To be
So you mean like really corrupt faith?
Yeah, and to exercise your free will and to have that faith in order to take action and so on. And I just kind of started to see that if that part of faith was not built and not strong, then that can hold you back.
Yeah.
Because I feel that I have faith that yes, God loves me and God can guide me, and that I have spirit guides, and that there's a lot of well-meaning spirits that can help you.
Yeah.
But I don't have that faith in myself yet.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, I never saw it as like separate things to work on. I just saw faith as being faith. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, no, this is a very big topic, and Jesus have done some like multiple talks, part 1, part 2, part 3 on faith in the early years. Pat, I think it's like 2012, way back when. Those are really, really, like, to me, I got a little bit lost in the conversation, like I can't follow it. But I'm always like, I got to go back to this conversation, the faith conversation again and again. But you are bringing up a good point. Like, do you need to have faith in yourself? Or is faith in God or something else higher than yourself enough? So now I'm going, oh, that's another thing to think about. Do I need faith in myself? What does that even mean? How can that help? So something I got to think about. Pat and then Michael.
This is just following on with what Michael said about faith.
Yeah.
Faith is something that you believe is possible so that you take action. But it also reminded me of one of the Paget messages Solomon wrote about the most important thing. You need faith and prayer. And I think prayer is only answered when you have faith. Is that correct?
Oh, wow. That's a good point. Well, if you don't have faith, would you even think of asking? Is probably what it is.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Unless you're in addiction. But yeah, if you have a pure desire.
I want what I want. No. Okay. Good point. Thank you. Michael.
Something that, Virginia, you said about having faith in yourself and mentioned corrupt faith. And when you said that, I realized I don't have faith in myself to do this. I have corrupt faith that I'm not going to be able to do this. And it's so hard.
Yeah.
And but we have to see ourselves as God sees us, right?
Yes.
And so God knows we can all do this. Yeah. That each of us can do this. So we need to have, that's the reason to have faith in ourselves.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Maybe you have to borrow faith from God and your guides, that God seems to have faith in you for some reason. And then as you borrow that and act on it, then you also start having faith in your capacity to do it. maybe faith has to come from outside first. It's like Jesus' faith in us is that we are capable of feeling our feelings. We will survive it. We can do it. He knows that. So when he talk about whatever it is that he's triggering us, he's feeling, because I used to go, you look so cold and so like, yeah, you've been raped and whatever, you're gonna have to feel it. Okay, carry on. It's like, well, you're a little cold, dude. But eventually I realized what it is that he has faith that I can go through it. And that faith actually affects me and it kind of changes me. And so when somebody has that kind of factual attitude towards it, then it changes my soul in some way. So I realized after that, when he's coming from faith.
And don't we need faith so that prayers can be effective?
Well, I'm wondering if faith is why you would even think of asking, or do you need faith to make it effective? God, that's another good one. Oh, and I'm kind of technical with stuff like this. I'm like, now I need to know. Okay, why do you need faith for prayers? Is it because if you don't have faith, you won't even pray? Or because, oh, right, because when you have faith, when you pray, you're actually praying for something you know that will happen. Like Siamese in the magnetic chorale, he know God will come true and respond to his prayer. So his prayer is not, will you please? His prayer is, I know you will. Here's what I want. Which is coming from a place of having faith in the nature of your parent. God, I know you love me and you will come true for me. Here's what I want from you. And I know my desire is in harmony with your wishes. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know. Good thing. Hey, any of you want to take any of this question and spend a week talking to your God and your guides about it? Like, man, go for it. This is great. And then send us all an email. And we can start to some kind of an email chain of discussion. So we can keep going past Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Now, Michael, do you have more to add? Okay. Pat?
That just reminded me for question 4A when it says live in the future as if the future were already present.
Yeah.
Does it have something to do with that you have to have faith for prayer? Like if you pray, you have faith that it's going to happen. So you have to have faith for the prayer.
You know what? I think I'm going to make it a gentle recommendation or request for this group that at some point we go through the Divine Truth videos on faith. Let's go back over the work, over the material that Jesus has about faith. I think he's got those 4, there's quite a few different sections of discussion of faith, but I'm thinking about the first bit he did in 2011, 2012. At some point, we got to make it some kind of a regular reading unless we keep exploring. We got to, because this is the 3rd book and faith is a big part. In Mary's feedback to me last time, she was like, there's conversation about faith. And for some reason, I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. But we got to integrate faith and our own exploration about faith as we continue over the chapter. I think it'll have a very strong impact on us as we do it together. Okay, Michael.
Sorry. Pat, you said something about praying, faith is praying with belief or something like that. Yeah. And you knew that we need to believe it'll come true for it to come true. And I thought of, what about a spirit, say, that believes that's in a darkness and believes that Jesus is going to come and save them. And so they have that belief. So what if something that you believe hasn't come true yet, or how?
Yes.
What's the importance of something being true that you believe in?
Yeah, very good question. Because I guess that's corrupt faith.
Oh yeah.
Because
how do you find out?
And then you get mad, and then you tantrum some more, and then you feel like God has turned a back on you, and then you shut down, and down you go. So that's a good point, eh? But then for those who are waiting for Jesus to deliver them, there are other spirit guides showing up to say, can I show you the way? Like, I mean, there is still some response I'm expecting. God is still sending guides to help. which is still indirectly is because of Jesus. Jesus has opened the celestial spirits. Now we have celestial spirits, celestial spheres. So now, there's all these gifts and abilities that can come back and respond to the other spirits in hell. I don't know, it's kind of working. But that's a good question. We're having some really good questions. And I would like to encourage us to stay in the conflict. This is where the good stuff is. Get upset, get agitated, get in it, let your soul start to open up and get disturbed, because then there's room for truths to enter and lies to leave. Okay, so point 5. Well, okay, this is where things got complicated. So he's referring to a story, and I feel like he's having visions. He's having, like, he's being taken through all his experiences he's had, where he's being shown how it all come together. It sounds like he's having a very powerful experience. I just couldn't follow him there. So he said, I was listening to my guide in other scenes surrounded by publicans, sinners, scribes, and Pharisees, as he told that graphic story of the erring lad. Had I not hungered with him for such a parent's love? Was not the yearning sympathy, the tender forbearance, the winsome solicitude, and the redeeming pity of the speaker too irresistible to be refused? No man had given unto me, but his voice, his look, his attitude, his hand offered the one cup for which I thirst. I ate, I drank, I was refreshed, strengthened, redeemed. Of course the lad came home. Such a story, so told, will empty hell. So I don't know what it's referring to. How does this story connect to faith? And how can faith help one who is working through sins and are in the hells? Michael.
Isn't that the story of the prodigal son?
Yeah? Okay. So how is that? So in the prodigal son, so is he referring to the part where the father comes to the prodigal son and welcomes him and is so happy to have him back and is treating him like a royalty? Is that what he's referring to? That kind of compassion? Yeah, Selena?
Yeah, and I think because the son had really kind of rejected the father and what the father wanted to give him and offer him, and yet he was welcomed back with open arms.
Yeah, he was afraid the father wasn't going to accept him, right? He was like, just let me be a servant. I'll just be a servant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that story of how by the time you're done rebelling and you've had enough and you want to go back and you're saying, look, I'll take anything. Can I please come back? And yet you are treated with such, is that the way that the father responds to him, something about that response. If only everyone knew that and really felt that, hell would be done. We can roll it up. So that's what he seems to be saying here. If only we knew about that. Okay, Michaela.
I wonder if it's talking about that no matter how dark we are or where we are, there's always this spark inside of us that can be like blown on and made bigger and drive us forward to like this, this desire in us for the Father is always there, ready to be activated. And there's always this underlying feeling that we can have more and that it's there for us.
Because that's what he says, haven't I desired for the same? Haven't I wanted the same cup? Oh, I like that. So all of us, because, technically we're all God's children, and like literally we're like, where's my dad? Where's my mom? What happened? So you're saying that inside of us, we always have that yearning, where's my parent?
Or that potential for that yearning as well. Like it's there's never nothing there. It might be really small, but there's never nothing there.
And that when you hear that story, that spark lights up.
Yeah. And then the desire to
to develop more understanding of this and to go towards it is
Yeah.
activated.
Ooh, I like it. Thank you. Yes, and that's why when it's fun. Huh. Okay. That's a good point. Because we were in the nursery of souls, and then we got sucked into earth, and technically we're still that baby going, what the hell happened? What happened? Where's I was in this nursery and I was in this beautiful lullaby, and then where's my mom? So, if we can let ourselves be that little kid going, what happened to my dad? I had no awareness of myself, but I had awareness of there was this thing that I'm supposed to get from a parent, which nobody's getting. And nobody can. Honestly, how can humans match that? So maybe that's why that spark is always ready to be ignited, no matter where we are. Thank you. Good observation. Michael.
It's the estrangement. No matter what we do, we can't totally estrange ourselves or separate ourselves from God.
Right.
Because God, I've rejected God and gone the opposite direction because I don't want that kind of a parent and that kind of a life. And the universe is big. I want to explore it, make my own decisions and choices, and etc. And I expect punishment when I go back, and to be in condemnation. But that's not what's there. It's tenderness, and it's sympathy and understanding.
Yeah. And we have to be in a certain condition to even accept that, because we expect punishment. Yeah. Estrangement. I like that word. What's happened is we gone estranged. That gives it a good perspective for me. It's like, oh, that's all that's happened. I got estranged from my parent, and I gotta go back. Okay, thank you, Michael. Selena.
Do you want to hear the quick Wikipedia version of the prodigal son?
Yeah.
Okay, prodigal son means wasteful and extravagant. That's what prodigal means, which I didn't know, wasteful and extravagant. So the youngest son gets his inheritance.
Yes.
Just says, I want it, Dad. I'm going to take off, find my fortune kind of thing. And he takes off and blows it all, kind of partying by the sounds of it. And he's destitute. So he comes home and he's done. And expecting full well to be punished, treated badly. He's just hoping for a roof over his head, maybe. And not only does his father take him back, but gives him a big party. So, and then the older son says, well, why? He should be punished. Like, what's going on here? He refuses to even participate in the party, the older son. And his father says, this is nice, actually, you are ever with me, meaning his son, the older son, and all that I have is yours. Like, I love you too, and you were good, sure you were.
Yeah.
But your younger brother was lost, and now he's found.
Yeah.
So I love him just as much as you, and he came back, and that's all I care about. He's my son.
Yeah.
And that's how God feels about us. That's the parable. Yeah.
Beautiful parable. Thank you.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And that parable would empty hell. Anything that would empty hell.
Yeah. 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 If we knew that God will always take us back no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And throw a party.
On top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that was it for this week's discussion. And then if anybody is interested in leading the group in 2 weeks onward, let me know so that we can start to, you can start to prepare, read ahead 2 weeks from now, what kind of chapters are coming out that you're interested in. And basically when I come out with the discussion, I don't have the answers. I'm just going, what is going on here? I don't get it. I'm just going to ask everybody else. And it always ends up being a lot of fun. So you don't have to understand it. The reason I ask is because I don't understand it. And I'm selfishly trying to understand the book. That's my goal. So it's just, I like the agitation. I like creating agitation because that's where the growth is. So I don't mind creating conflicting questions and discussion forums. Okay, I will stop the recording here.